Hey, this is Chris, and welcome back to another episode of Unpopped Kernels here on Popcorn Finance. And Mandi was kind enough to come back and join me here again on the podcast. So, Mandi, how's it going?
Always happy to be on Popcorn Finance with you, bud. Happy to chat.
Well, I appreciate you joining me again because right now we hear a ton of stuff in the news about recessions. Are we in a recession already? Is there actually going to be a recession? What's going on? But one thing that I think also goes hand in hand with that is if there is a recession, we also sometimes see a drop in the job market. You may see unemployment rise. You can see hiring freezes. You can see a lot of things going on that can cause us to worry. And so I've seen you do a lot of talking about this. You did a workshop on it, and it's the topic of recession proofing your career. And I would love to learn more about what is that? Like how do you approach this topic?
Yeah, it sounds really lofty. How do you recession proof anything? But I believe wholeheartedly in the fact that there's always going to be something. It's always going to be something in the economy, or maybe it's personal challenges that you have, but there's always going to be something that could potentially, throw your career for a loop. So I am always in favor of creating the kind of career that is super resilient to outside forces. And I have done this over the course of my career. I quit 6 times in 10 years, and I learned the power. I learned the power of navigating my career through the art of quitting and strategically quitting my way to new opportunities. And I also learned how to create a really resilient career so that even as, I graduated during the Great Recession, and yet as a journalism major, nonetheless, as a print journalism major,
Oh,
nonetheless,
that's
like,
tough.
okay, into a dying industry, into a world that was going up in flames. And still I created this, incredible career, and I 10x'd my income from 30K to 300K over that 10-year period. So that's what I talked about in the Recession Proof Your Career workshop. And central to that is, so what makes a career more resilient? Your professional brand has to be rock damn solid. So if you want, we can start with professional branding and how that's so important and how you're not allowed to cringe when
Oh
I
yeah.
say it. It sounds a little cringy.
Yeah. Well, I want to hear what is that? Like, what is professional brand?
Yeah.
I maybe could guess, but I'm sure I'll be wrong. So I want to know more
It's
about what
very
that means.
simple. Professional brand is that when someone thinks of the thing that you do, your job or your skill set, that they automatically think of you along with that. So if I'm someone and I am at a company and I hear that a job is opened and I know that that job is, for example, I don't know, a marketing director. And maybe you're not a marketing director yourself, but because you saw something that a friend, a former colleague of yours, or a former college, peer of yours posted on LinkedIn, or because you've known this person and you've seen them grow over their career, and you immediately think of them, they think, "Oh, I'm going to put Chris up for this. I got to send Chris a note." Like that's when you have a strong professional brand. A strong professional brand is also what attracts new opportunities to you passively. So you're not actually out there pursuing new opportunities professionally. They're coming to you. They're coming to you from LinkedIn recruiters, sending you messages. They're coming to you from those colleagues and friends who are thinking of you for open opportunities, to invitations to events that's putting you in the same space as decision makers at companies. So those are really two strong indicators of having a strong professional brand. The kernel, so I can like use the popcorn analogy here, the
I
kernel
love it.
here, like the kernel of the common kernel denominator here is having a great work product. Obviously, like there's no professional brand if you're not good at your job. So you have to have a really excellent work, and it helps when you are known for excellent work in a niche of some sort. So when you're early in your career, it can be a little bit more challenging. Like you're just building your professional brand, obviously. Like what are you going to be known for? Time will tell. So for early career professionals, I kind of give them a little bit of like, just relax, like you're building your brand slowly but surely by building good relationships with your colleagues, by turning in excellent work product, and by, niching down as you go through your career into what your specialty is going to be. You will build, a strong professional brand, but you got to do it by being good at your job first and foremost.
Ooh. Okay. So my next question is because I'm as I'm learning what professional brand is, I probably should have known about this a long time ago. Is how do you get known for doing those things, right? Because I'm like, okay, if I'm excellent at my job, I'm like, I'm going to do really good at this one particular area that my company needs me to do. How does that then translate out to like the broader, world or network of people?
This is usually the part when I'm speaking to my career coaching clients or my Mandi money makers. My audience is BIPOC baddies, so women of color, and this is usually the part where they get really uncomfortable because you got to tell people about it, Chris. You can't be the best
Oh
kept
yeah.
secret. You can't. You have to find ways to share your work. So in Mandi Moneymakers, for example, we have a whole week where we focus on professional branding, and I talk about building your brand internally at the company that you work for, and then also externally. So we can talk about that for a second now. So internally, building a great professional brand, that's turning in great work. It's about building relationships beyond your team so that your name is known in other departments. And you can do that by offering to help out colleagues in other teams, by putting your name in the hat for internal awards, or most valuable whatevers of the month or of the quarter. One of my favorite ways to actually spread the word of your work is by sending a recap email to your team or to your boss, your manager, in whatever fashion feels, most natural to you, so that they're aware of what it is that you're up to. Those are ways you can build your brand internally. Even getting invitations to speak on panels outside the company, I believe that that's something that can help you build your brand internally, because if you can be trusted to go represent the company at a public event, then people will start to think of you, as being a representative of the company and being trustworthy, and again, like being someone that they can see representing all that they stand for. And then externally, so how do you actually get eyeballs on your work outside of your company? LinkedIn is one of the easiest entry points for this. Actually sharing your work on LinkedIn and things that you're up to, sharing the fact that you're at that panel, that tagging your colleagues and giving them shouts out. That's one of the shout outs. That's one of the easiest ways to start posting on LinkedIn for people who think it's really icky, who are,
Oh,
against self-promotion. I don't know why people don't like it. I love it. But
I'd
if
never
you
even thought to do that, to like tag your coworkers and stuff.
hell yeah, yeah, you tag them, and then not only are you shining a light on their work, but it reflects back on you too, because you were a part of that team, right? So actually talking about your work, staying connected to your colleagues, writing for publications in your niche, if there's a particular trade publication, or maybe it's a major news site, but you don't have to be that big, but maybe it's something more local, or it's something very specific to your niche and your industry, and you have written an article about a project your team has done, or you've been nominated for an industry award. I love random local regional awards too. There's always something, that you can put your hat in the ring for. So those things help. And then being entrepreneurial is really huge for creating not just professional resilience, but a great professional brand. It's the act of actually like creating a new initiative or creating a new process for doing something within your company that makes things better. And having an idea, pitching it to stakeholders, getting it approved, executing it, and then putting a bow on that. Like that is an entrepreneurial endeavor. And those types of projects are the ones that help you get seen as, being worthy of a promotion or a raise. So, yeah, professional branding is huge, and it's especially huge at a time like this when companies are having to make some tough decisions about who to keep and who to drop. And the stronger your brand, sometimes it's completely out of your control. You can have a great brand and still laid off, as I've been laid off before, but it does if it won't save you from getting laid off, it'll certainly make it easier for you to bounce back if you were to get laid off and find a new job.
I wish I would have known about this for all these years. I never once thought about this in that way. It's like combining like the tactics and techniques you would use if you were like, a small business owner, if you're an entrepreneur working on your own, but then just like bringing all of that into your day job and kind of using that to create this almost like you said, this brand recognition of who you are. And I never once thought about doing that or thought that that was even a thing you could do. But it makes so much sense hearing that, because
Everyone has one. You just don't know what it is unless you think about it. But your brand
that's
was
true.
probably strong all along. That's how you were able to do what you've done, It's people whose brand are on the weaker side who are feeling stuck and don't feel like they have new opportunities, and, or if they're going for new opportunities, or not getting any traction. So when you have a weak brand, it can feel really, yeah, it can feel really disheartening, and what's the word I'm looking for? Just make you feel crappy. And it's hard to be
Oh yeah.
optimistic about a job search. So for me, I do a lot of work helping people, yeah, grow their professional brand and grow it all the time. Because, like I said, there's always going to be a recession. It's always going to be another downturn. Who knows what can be in the future, but you can always be building your stronger brand.
The thought that came to my mind right now is because I'm thinking back of past jobs I've had and what maybe I could have done differently. But I'm thinking of some of my coworkers, and I've talked to more coworkers than I can count who are feeling just like done. Like, I'm over it. I hate this place. They're not treating me right. I'm burnt out. When you're in that state, in that position, how can you work on building a personal brand when you're just like, I don't even want to see these people anymore?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can start turning in shitty work and you're just tarnishing your professional brand and going to make it harder to get new opportunities. Here's the thing, like you really have to think about your career beyond the job that you have. No job is stable. A job itself is not in my mind a career. And when you think about your professional brand, it's not just about the job that you have. Where are you how are you showing up outside of that job? Are you involved in any professional organizations? Are you staying in touch with former colleagues? Or even if you're not happy with your job, are you still keeping good relationships with your colleagues? And I really, when people get to a place where they are so burned out and so bitter and resentful, at that point, you make it really hard for yourself. It's harder to make a pivot because you're in a bad mental state at that point. It's harder to have the energy. It takes energy to job search. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
Again, I'll
Yeah.
go back to the dating analogy from Monday's episode. It is a lot like putting yourself out there and going on the dates or the interviews. It's exhausting. And if you're already burnt out and, fed up, it's not the right kind of headspace. So if you like I am, that's why I'm always in favor of staying open to opportunities, interviewing, building that strong professional brand so that opportunities are coming to you on a, fairly consistent basis so that you don't have to wait until that point comes when you're so pissed off to actually to
Yeah.
let that moment be the thing that pushes you into a new opportunity. I wish more people would stop waiting for that FU moment, stop waiting for
Yeah.
that moment
Yeah.
when like, that's it, I quit. If you're waiting for that moment, it's too late. Like there's real strategic
Yeah.
things you
You're
could be
right.
doing long before that.
Yeah. You know what? Because it's not like that just happens like overnight. That's a slow build up
Yeah.
to get to that point where you're just over it. And you're
Mhm.
right. Like sometimes it just slips by. You're just like, you're hating it more and more every day. And you kind of don't take action because you're like, I'm over it. But you could have maybe taken the energy and used that to start, getting yourself out there and looking at some
Yeah.
other things you could do to get yourself out of the situation. Cause sometimes when the job turns on you like that and maybe some people leave and the environment gets a little more toxic, it's going to probably take a while for that ever to turn around. If you're sitting there waiting it out, you may just be waiting forever.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes it's the easiest way out to stay. It's harder to
Yeah.
quit.
Yeah, exactly.
It's harder to jump off that cliff and quit. Sometimes people stay and it's out of that fear. Yeah, it's out of the fear that they may not get something else. And because they're staying, they become resentful. And it's just, it's like all super toxic. That's why I just love when people quit. Just quit. Just quit. Quit strategically, but don't be afraid to pursue a different opportunity. I mean, like as we've seen in this, whatever we're calling it, economic downturn, I don't know, we're not allowed to call it a recession yet. There's always going to be another lull, you know what I mean? So, how are you preparing so that when times are tough, that those limited opportunities, you're more likely to get them because again, your brand is so strong and people want to see you succeed and win. And it's so much harder to do that when they remember like crotchety old Chris in the corner, grumbling, turning in crappy work and being like a big bummer to hang around. Like that's the reality.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. I hope everyone listening to this, if you haven't already thought about, if you're not already building a personal brand, this sounds like an amazing idea and something that we all should be doing because it sounds like it's just a much more strategic way to go about your working career and making those moves and being prepared. And yeah, I wish I would have talked to you sooner, Mandi. I really do appreciate this. And it's amazing advice. Everyone just start doing it. Start taking this advice, get out there, start building that personal brand. Cause it sounds like it will make things so much easier as you progress and move throughout your working career.
I mean, you're doing just fine, Chris. I'm not worried about you at all, but I'm always happy to help.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And before we get out of here, again, where can people go find you? Where can they connect with you and find more of this amazing advice and work that you're doing?
Yeah, you can find me at Mandi Money on social media. You can find me mandymoney.com is my website where you can find out how to become a Mandi Moneymaker yourself and all about my coaching services.
Right. All that's going in the show notes. Please go connect with Mandi. And thank you again so much. I really enjoyed this conversation. This is one of my favorite conversations I've had in a while. No diss to any previous guests, but this
But
one hit
also
me because I've
dis.
had some really bad jobs.
I'm a competitive person. I'll take it. So what you're saying is I win.
All right, I'm putting you at the top of the leaderboard right now.
That's
Mandy's at
all
the
that
top.
matters is that I won something, right? Okay, cool.
Hey, thanks for watching. And if you haven't already, go check out the Popcorn Finance Podcast. It's a short form show where I discuss finance and about the time it takes to make a bag of popcorn. Or you know what? You can just stick around here and watch another video. Either way, I appreciate you joining me here for another bag of popcorn. Hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll talk to you soon.